say hello possums, but I don't do a good Dame Edna impersonation. Anyway, if you are a returning subscriber, hello and welcome back. If you are a new person, hello, please stick around. Love newcomers. We love you. I love you. Everybody loves you. Well, no, really, it's just me. Anyway, you may notice from description, title, thumbnail, maybe a particular hashtag, that today is my first Kill It With Fire review for the year, so I'm quite excited. I do love when I get to really, let out my frustration and really sink my teeth into a film, or in this case, TV series. So this is gonna be lengthy, but what can I say? The show just gave me so much to criticize. So, with that said, let's light the fires and start the review. Lunatics is an Australian comedy mockumentary web television series now available on Netflix, directed, created and written by Chris Lilly. The 10-episode series follows the peculiar lives of 6 eccentric and sometimes obscene misfits who march to the beat of a different drum. The reasons for my giving this a try are relatively simple. I quite enjoyed Lilly's previous mockumentary style shows such as Summer Heights High and the spin-off Janae Private Schoolgirl, which funny enough featured performances from my former high school principal, and at one point was even filmed at my old high school, Sandringham Secondary College, so there's that. I even somewhat enjoyed his other show, We Can Be Heroes, but this new series is a far cry from his previous shows. The biggest difference being those were mildly entertaining, though they still bordered on offensive. This, however, has no entertainment value, no humor whatsoever, and is the very definition of offensive. I still rewatch the shows I just mentioned. What I enjoyed about, if I'm willing to overlook his depiction of other ethnicities, is that the characters were all highly realistic and therefore entertaining. I could watch him depict characters like Janae and say, wow, it is scary how accurate this was to my time in high school. So when an artist can pull stories from reality so precisely, they get a free pass. Comedy is notorious for pushing the boundaries, and some comedians have built their whole career on offensive humor, like Bianca Del Rio or Jimmy Carr. The reason why comedians like this can get away with this is that they do their research, they know their audience and know how to make the joke funny. As anyone will say, if you have to explain the joke, it wasn't funny. Lilly, it is safe to say, has completely gone off the deep end with Lunatics. He not only doesn't know his audience, but he was unable to make a single aspect of this show comical. Perhaps people would be less offended if it was genuinely funny, but as I've said repeatedly, it was anything but. Instead of breaking down this show into episodes or arcs, I'll break it down by character, starting with Keith Dick. Keith Dick is a designer wannabe who is an open objectophile. Objectophilia, or object sexuality, is a form of paraphilia that focuses on particular inanimate objects. Some form sexual attractions to certain objects, while others form deep emotional relationships. I think it is safe to say that any objectophile watching this would be highly offended. People with these particular proclivities have been mocked and shunned for the longest time. They are usually average functioning members of society. They just have this one aspect that makes them stand out from others. However, Lilly's depiction of Keith Dick does nothing to reduce the stigma associated with objectophiles. Keith has an obsession with his cash register, who he has named Karen, and is depicted having sex with on several occasions, but he is not faithful to Karen, with him at one point having sex with a vacuum cleaner. That takes me back to Scary Movie.
I said don't disturb you, I'm cleaning my room!
Keith is married and has a daughter, and as such shows them no love or affection and spends most of his time treating them like the staff and behaving like a dictator. He is arrogant, belligerent, and just an all-around waste of human space. During the character's story, he publicly announces his sexuality, dumps his wife in front of their daughter, and proposes to his cash register while the crowd applauds. While some objectophiles have been known to marry the object they are connected to, I have yet to see any be done in such a way that was so damaging. Lilly's portrayal makes not only objectophiles sound as though they have a mental disorder, which they don't, but also as unhinged members of society who can't function because of their desires and who will inevitably destroy families. While it seems all good and well that people are celebrating his love for Karen and their nuptials, but it's hard to accept this after what the audience has just witnessed for the past 10 episodes. On top of that, Keith is depicted as going to his family priest on numerous occasions to have electroshock therapy to rid him of his desires, which further promotes the notion that people with this condition have something wrong with them that needs to be fixed. Keith, who speaks down to every female character he meets and compares them to his cash register lover, is so in love with himself that he defies any psychological diagnosis. When reopening his father-in-law's business, he renames the store My Dick. So not only do we have to see this character's phallic obsession in big print on every item in every episode, but we must suffer through the company huddle several times that requires everyone, including his teenage daughter, to chant "My dick" until the huddle has broken. Most people don't enjoy anyone's dick being flaunted at them on any occasion, and so having to hear and see this on repeat was enough to drive me insane. It was not funny the first time we heard or saw it, and it wasn't funny the 10th time either. It was a joke that lost its humor before it was even put on paper. This was mainly what we could expect to come from the rest of the series. Next character is Becky Douglas, a young Australian teen who has travelled to California with her non-identical twin sister to attend an American college. But what makes Becky so unique? Well, because she's a height-challenged 7'3" tall girl with enormous thighs. While there are cases in the world of people diagnosed with conditions such as gigantism or acromegaly, I hope I pronounced that right, this character is never given a specific diagnosis. Most height conditions are a result of genetics and an overproduction of the growth hormone or tumours pressing on the pituitary gland. Not much can be done to treat or stop these conditions, and what is available is not deemed acceptable or ideal. While these conditions have a profound impact on a person's quality of life, with it impacting their health in a multitude of ways, still many can live somewhat normal lives and are still able to be useful members of society. Given the title of the show, naturally Lily would have to give his characters even more reasons to stand out from the norm, to the point where he's not honouring them or depicting them accurately, he is now just making fun of them. Becky is 7 feet tall, has braces, a lisp, and seems as though no one ever taught her how to use a brush. Her personality makes her appear as though she has a mild impairment where, despite her height, she is at a lower intelligent level than her peers. Her family treat her with kid gloves and do everything they can to accommodate her height instead of teaching her how to adapt to her surroundings. At first, the accommodations are entirely reasonable, especially in her own space, but then we see that Becky is so used to being accommodated that she expects or demands it of others, and her peers don't take too kindly to this. While being bullied for being different is certainly a relatable and realistic topic, one can't help but question the context, as Lily ensures his character at all times is doing things to make her stand out and encourage the bullying, from deliberately walking into tree branches in order to duck instead of walking around them, to having her create a YouTube page and a huge Instagram following, which means constant attention. Hi. I get hate too. It's just how it works. The character perhaps learns that maybe she's made it about herself for too long and finds friendship and love for being herself, which are lovely conclusions and does promote the moral that one should be true to who they are at all times. But just when I thought this character's story could be redeemed, Lily proves me wrong. At the end of Becky's story, she reveals that due to her internet success, she now attends FreakCon. Now, while there is a FreakCon, it is like most cons and is for lovers of film, television, and anime, etc. The FreakCon in this show is exactly what you think it is. A setting where fans get to come and take photos and celebrate their favourite online freaks. You might think it's great that people with unique traits such as gigantism, dwarfism, or being albino being celebrated instead of degraded is great, but let's think about that. Not only are they going to conventions that blatantly labels these people with physical abnormalities as freaks, but it is putting them on a stage as such, so essentially people can gawk at them. During this scene, they aren't famous or loved because of a skill or personality they have. They are famous because they are freaks, which does no favors to people with physical abnormalities. It's like watching The Elephant Man.
I am not an animal. I am a human being.
Next on a never-ending list is Gavin McGregor, an overweight, obnoxious, and that's putting it mildly, 12-year-old destined to become the future Earl of an English country estate. Gavin is a warning to all parents of how not to raise your children. Firstly, let's get real. Chris Lilly, who is now 42, cannot pass off for 12. No makeup on the planet is that good. Gavin is also a character who one could look at and easily see him getting arrested down the track for attempted rape, or public indecency, and no one would be surprised. Gavin is clearly suffering from a learning disability and possibly even ADHD, even though it's never mentioned, it's more than implied. Plus, this show focuses on characters with unique disorders, so it's a safe assumption. Gavin's dialogue primarily consists of using words such as fuck, shit, and cunt on a loop and speaking in fragments and sentences to illustrate this character has no grasp on the English language. Gavin also spends 80% of his time talking about his penis and talking about the women he wants to fuck, smash, bang, bone, and any other unpleasant term for sex you can think of. Gavin regularly sexually harasses girls in his neighborhood and insults them for not letting him root them, and he doesn't stop there as he sexually harasses his cousin and his aunt, virtually any female with a pulse. Gavin is a bully and always bullies and manipulates his disabled younger cousin, publicly humiliates his family and torments the family's livestock. Mistreatment of animals is almost always a precursor of sociopathy, meaning I would be sleeping with one eye open around this kid. I'm not sure which aspect of this character is worse, depicting a character with a learning disability that no one is attempting to help, or that we have a character who sexually harasses women, behaves in a number of inappropriate ways, and yet not a single adult around him punishes him or attempts to correct his behavior. Or maybe it's that we're making it seem as though people with ADHD are walking future sexual predators. Not to mention, watching sheepdogs or pigs being forced to drag around a 42-year-old grown man is disgraceful to say the least. Here is just a brief clip of the character that I will show you, which I think sums up not only the character but the humor, we'll say, of the tone of the show.
Dope as fuck. Dope as fuck.
No.
Dope as fuck.
If you wanna fuck, let's fuck. If you wanna fuck, let's fuck. Fuck me to the left and fuck me to the right.
Following Gavin is Joyce Jefferies, a former adult film star who has now become an extreme hoarder and suffers from paranoia. Well done, Lily. Why not just say everyone with disorders or disabilities is a moron? That may be less offensive than this show. Joyce barely has a single piece of coherent dialogue. Her character goes off on unintelligent tangents that are undecipherable to the audience, along with calling her hoards her collection. She has roped her friend into helping her, and she thinks the galahs in the trees are government spy robots that record her and send information back to the government. As I say this, my last remaining brain cells struggle to hang on. Joyce has no job, no source of income. Her best friend fuels her condition instead of helping her, and together they have a plan to turn her hoarding into a museum. On what planet do people want to visit someone's shack to see their collection of corn cob holders? But by some miracle, that's what happens. Joyce is proven not to be utterly insane because her boyfriend was not imaginary, and so she and her collection move, I'm doing too many air quotes today, move with him to Armadale, where together they hoard and turn it into a museum where they charge admission. I genuinely fear for the state of the world at this point. While Joyce is probably the least offensive character of the bunch, she is hardly an accurate depiction of hoarders, nor does her character make any sense. As I said, the character tends to talk in circles without saying anything that can be understood, and is often shown making phone calls by drawing a phone on the whiteboard and pretending to make a call. I have no idea what this has to do with hoarding or anything in general. I just want it off my screen. Following the confusing Joyce is Quinton Cook. Oh Jesus. An incompetent real estate agent who dreams of one day becoming a famous DJ. Quinton is the embodiment of every Australian stereotype times by 1,000. Quinton is another character whose dialogue mostly consists of fuck, shit, and cunt as the second word in every sentence. Quinton is indeed incompetent, he hasn't a shred of intelligence and doesn't have to work for anything because his parents constantly praise his stupid antics and talk him up as their favourite and most loved child in front of their other children. This is a family dynamic where it's clear to see the children would have benefited from strict discipline instead of rewarding and praising stupidity. Oh God. Jesus, take the wheel. Perhaps you're asking, how does incompetence fit the theme of the show? Well, it doesn't. On top of all this, Quinton, along with other men in his family, has an abnormally huge butt. This butt looks so fake, Lily could have benefited from drag queens teaching him how to pad. Quinton thinks he is God's gift to all, mostly thanks to his mother telling him so for the past 30 years of his life. Quinton sexually harasses women, I'm sensing a theme here, and then gets angry at them and insults them when they reject him, though I can't imagine why they would. Who doesn't want to hook up with a random guy who touches you without permission, tries to take your picture, and is all over you like a bad rash and won't piss off no matter how much you ask? Those ladies are missing out. Quinton tries a multitude of get-rich-quick schemes, proving he has no attachment to reality. He tries to be a street artist by spray painting random appliances in various colors, but his real dream is to be a DJ by the name of Cunt, with a Q. Sadly, there are men such as this who walk the streets of Australia, and they are not received well by their peers. To call this character an accurate depiction of Australians or even Australian men is not only a gross lie, but an insult. This just feels like Lily going for cheap laughs and giving Americans an offensive caricature they are familiar with. However, this one comes with zero payoff. Again, Lily has done himself no favors when it comes to portraying people with body image issues. Who will he offend next? Don't worry, I saved the worst for last. Lastly, we have Jana Melman, a South African lesbian pet psychic to the stars. My remaining brain cells have officially died. This character quickly had the internet in a rage when images of the show were released last year. While Lily isn't trying to play a black woman and has described the character as white, he nevertheless did put her in an afro and slap a fake tan on himself to make himself look of a darker complexion. While we don't know the genealogy of the character, that is irrelevant. At the end of the day, Chris Lilly is a white man and shouldn't have taken the risk of depicting an ethnicity or race he is not a part of, especially with his track record. Lilly has portrayed Polynesians, Asians, black people, and now a South African who is meant to be white but is giving a colored appearance. This could have been done with humor and respect. Look at White Chicks or some of Eddie Murphy's work. But this, as I keep saying, isn't funny, and seeing as how people continue to be offended by his portrayals of other races, he shouldn't keep at it. Lord, give me strength. But as I said, it's not people of colour that Lily offends most through this character. Jana is a lesbian and self-proclaimed lesbian icon who is not only obsessed with her assistant but uses her psychic needs as ways to be physically close to her assistant, to the point I would call this workplace harassment. Jana is jealous of her assistant's hetero relationship and makes several attempts to sabotage it, and even tries to persuade her into marriage with her. One of the common and incorrectly arrogant fears by heterosexuals when it comes to homosexuals is that they fear they will try to have sex with them. While this is ignorant in every way it can be, to depict a lesbian with no respect for personal space and willing to go to such lengths to own and possess the woman of her obsession who does not share the same orientation does not send the right message to viewers about lesbians. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it does! Jana is an animal lover and obsessed with animals to an unnatural and disturbing degree. While the character claims to be a lover and advocate for animals, the things we can see can be considered animal abuse or just contradictions of behaviour one would expect from an animal lover. Jana has all her previous pets either stuffed and used as decorations or mounted on her wall. When that doesn't work, she has them skinned and turned into rugs or shawls. This feels less like an animal lover and more someone who collects animals to skin them later. Jana on numerous occasions gets too close for comfort with her animal clients, even at one point getting naked with one of them, claiming it helps her connect to the animals better. By this point we're bordering on some bestiality shit, and I'm surprised crew members haven't called PETA. On top of this, as if that weren't bad enough, countless times Jana touches, holds and strokes the genitals of her male pet clients. In no way is this funny, necessary, or appropriate. I'm honestly surprised the character didn't just have straight up sex with the poor animals. But I'm not done there. There is one more demographic to offend, and that is the transgender community. Jana, through her alleged psychic abilities, has assessed her dog Victoria and declared that Victoria is a transgender dog and wants a sex change operation to become a male dog. Right now, the transgender community is fighting a constant battle over their rights and what it means to be transgender. So for Lily to go and have some nutcase lesbian character elect to give her dog a sex change operation because a voice in her head told her to, I think Lily needs to barricade his doors and never show his face again or risk the wrath of the LGBT+ community. I've never been so disgusted and offended, well I probably have, but who knows, A white man playing a South African lesbian who molests animals and gives them sex change operations while harassing her assistant and forcing her assistant to impregnate her with a turkey baster full of Dutch sperm FedExed over from the Netherlands. Clearly someone has been watching too much Don't Breathe and my brain cells haven't just died, they've committed mass suicide. I thought the most offensive show I had ever seen was the Charmed remake. And that was for its script, not it being a remake. But I must say, Charmed is off the hook and looks like the Mona Lisa of the television world compared to this humorless, offensive, horribly executed pile of trash. Chris Lilly has lost whatever skills he had and now is just using the same style over and over again. All his shows are the same, more and more mockumentaries, just different characters, and this is the worst one yet. Netflix should never have aired this series, and if they were smart, they would immediately take it down. No one should be associated with this. If you are someone who found this funny, and I'm sure there are some because there are some people who enjoy offensive humor, but this is beyond just offensive. This show is genuinely damaging, promotes stereotypes, and intensifies stigmas. I understand we are living in a PC world, and so it's important to push the boundaries, but this isn't how to do it. This show has no story, no structure, no purpose, and no redeeming quality. This show should not exist, and that is exactly why you see me giving it a kill it a fire review today. Oh god. Just thinking about this show makes me angry. I watched, when I first watched the first few minutes, I'm like, maybe we're going somewhere. Then by the end of the first episode, I'm just like, I fucking hate you. By the end of the second episode, I really fucking hate you and I want this show to go die. And I wanted to break my laptop. And I'm just going, no, I can't do it. But I forced myself for the sake of giving a fully informed review. I forced myself to watch all 10 episodes, which I never want to do again. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say he only has one shtick. Let's see, he's done Jonah, Boy from Tonga, whatever it's called, Angry Boys, We Can Be Heroes, Summer Heights High, Jamae Private School Girl, and now we've got Lunatics. And they're all written, directed, created, even music, all done by Chris Lilly. I mean, it's great that you have that many talents, but do you? Because all these shows are mockumentaries, and it's all just you on screen, recording yourself, doing all these different characters. Like, come on. It's getting ridiculous at this point. I mean, he casts background characters, but sure, but it's always going to be himself, several times as a different person on the screen, and it's too much. Change it up, you know, a little bit. Show us that there's something else you can do, because right now you're just a one-trick pony. And on top of that, you're an offensive one-trick pony. I mean, this... well, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to anyway. My brother used to work at a video store. He'd actually been working in a video store since he was 14, and he went from one to another, and unfortunately, like most video stores these days, it has closed down. But at one point, my brother called me. He's like, "What are you watching?" I said, "Oh, I'm watching Summer Heights High," and he says, "Oh, why are you watching that?" And I said, "I don't know." I'm like, "Because I kind of like it." And then he told me that Chris Lilly actually would sometimes come into the store, like, I don't know, like once every couple of weeks, or I don't know, it was sporadic. And when he would come in, he'd never purchase anything. He'd never even look for something to rent. He would go straight to the shelf where DVDs for his show were, rearrange them so that they were forward on the shelf, which, as my brother is kind of OCD, and had everything on those shelves neatly and methodically placed. To have this dude walk in, mess up his shelf, and then leave pissed my brother off to no end, and he just went one arrogant C word. And I thought that was actually both sad and kind of funny. I'm like, so you what? Go to every video store you find and you start putting out your shit like, please buy my stuff, like, Are sales that bad? If they are, that kind of indicates that maybe doing the same thing over and over again is not what people want. You've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times. But yeah, like I said, not everybody is going to find it offensive. Some people are actually going to like this. Someone mentioned it to me the other day. They said, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, really? Really? But anyway, personal taste, but yeah, I can't get over just, for me it's trash. I'm sorry. And based on media outlets I've been checking, that thought seems to be pretty unanimous. Minus a couple people here and there. So if you have seen this, please comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. And if you haven't, do you think based on what I've said you will or won't see it? I personally don't want people to see it. I don't ever say this about film or television, but personally, I don't want to encourage people to watch it because I don't want people supporting something that damages so many minorities and is so offensive. But as is the case with most negative reviews, people think that negative reviews actually hurt a film or a show. I find that they have the opposite effect, because anytime I give a negative review, and I mean like a negative review like this one, people watch it and get so curious to see if it is that bad, they then go and watch it. So to any other film or television, you're welcome. But in this case, please don't do it. Please, I'm begging you, don't do it. Don't do it! Anyway, I'm done. I'm gonna stop here. I'm done. Yeah, please comment, share your thoughts, and I'm gonna go and try to see if I can regenerate my brain cells. So until next time, bye.